Mario Kart Double Dash is known for quite a lot of things, like 2 characters per kart, special items, and screaming the game's title at your face. But one thing I always think of when I hear Double Dash is the game's amazing track selection. I genuinely don't think there's a single bad track in this game, but some are of course better than others. And because you can make an argument for more than half of the courses being the best in the game, I thought it would be fun to rank all of them without any sort of bias and total objectivity. Dry Desert is a course that many people don't deem a very good track, and I have to say that I agree. I don't hate this course, far from it. I think as far as desert tracks go, this one feels quite immersive, and in terms of hazards, it's pretty unique too, with a tornado that moves around the track and a big sand pit where you can get swallowed by a piranha plant. However, there's a couple things that hold this course back. I think the track layout is a little bland, and I also think the sand pit could have been handled better, because while it's styled very well, with the piranha plant eating you, in terms of gameplay, it can be a bit of a dud. The thing is, it sucks too much. Pause. Even though it would make total sense if you could save a lot of time by using mushrooms straight through the middle of the sandpit, this doesn't work at all. No matter how many mushrooms you have, once you get sucked into the pit, there's no way to make it out again, so I feel the risk versus reward balance is a little off there. Even so, in general, the track is not bad by any means, it's just f***ing dry desert, you know, what else is there to say about it? Up next, we've got Mario Circuit. Again, this is not a bad track at all, but it just does nothing to stand out. It's your run-of-the-mill Mario Circuit that every game has. The layout is okay. I do like that it has a chain jump that you can sneak behind with a mushroom. Visually, it has quite a bit of variety, and the music slaps, but other than that, there's nothing worthy of note here. It kinda just exists. I like this track more in Mario Kart Wii because the bumps at the end of the lap are pretty fun to trick off of in that game, but that of course doesn't work in Double Dash since there's no trick system yet. Still, I don't mind playing this one in Double Dash, but I think there's another circuit track in the game that does everything this does, but just a little bit better. And overall, this is a track that really doesn't excite me all too much. A track that does excite me a lot is Baby Park. This course is probably the most iconic from Mario Kart Double Dash, which seems a little strange considering it's just an oval. But its simplicity turns it into the most chaotic track Mario Kart has ever seen. Double Dash is of course known for all the crazy items it has, and these are put on full display here. Because the track is so small, it gets absolutely littered with items within seconds. There's not a single boring moment during the 7 laps you drive around it, making it the most action-packed course in Mario Kart history. But the chaos on this track is a bit of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, when you're playing with friends, there is no track that beats this one, because you can go absolutely haywire with items and have tons of laps while you're at it. But on the other hand, trying to play on a map like this in single player can be literal torture. If I were to rank the courses on just multiplayer fun, this would be near or even in first place, but because it can also be awful to play on this, I couldn't really place it much higher than 14th. Peach Beach is a track that does one thing very well, and that is atmosphere. Being based on Super Mario Sunshine, this track perfectly embodies going on a vacation to a tropical island, with its beautiful beaches and the picturesque town you drive through. The track's mechanics are definitely not bad too. It has a cool ebb and flow feature you have to take into account, and a unique hazard in the form of cataquacks that can flip you in the air. There's also some alternate routes to take, but I feel these don't ever give much of an advantage. I never find myself going for them because it usually just results in going slower. I guess it's still better than nothing though, because they do add a bit of strategy. In general, I don't really have anything against this course, it's just that the track layout is very simple, and there's a bunch of courses coming up that I'd simply rather play compared to this one, but still a very solid track with some cool features. Who would have thought that an outline of Yoshi of all things would make for a good kart racing course? I genuinely wonder who came up with the idea for this track. Like, who looked at Yoshi and thought, I want to drive on that. It works surprisingly well though. Yoshi Circuit is home to some very tricky sets of corners, but also longer ones in which you'll have to chain together drifts to get the maximum speed. Add to that the different shortcuts you can take, and Yoshi Circuit is quite a technical track that requires a surprising amount of skill. Once you've arrived on Yoshi's back though, the track quickly becomes dull. It's like the whole track is high energy, but then the last part is where you remember, oh yeah, this is a circuit track. Still, around 80% of the lap is really fun and exhilarating, so in general, this is a very solid track. I do find it funny that Yoshi's shell is completely out of proportion from a top-down view, but hey, I guess it's the illusion that counts, right? Sherbet Land is one of those tracks that usually ends up somewhere in the bottom 2 places when people are ranking the Double Dash courses, but I think it deserves a little more than that. I fully understand why people don't like this track, because Double Dash's rather slippery controls combined with ice physics and a bunch of hazards can get pretty annoying. But I don't usually find myself getting too frustrated with it. If anything, I kinda like the different kinds of hazards. I think the skating Shy Guys are incredibly charming, and the freezy spread across the ice, while bothersome to dodge sometimes, offer a nice challenge and really don't cause too much of a time loss when you do end up hitting them. Visually, there's quite a lot of variety on this course too, including frozen lakes, snowy roads, and a cool icy tunnel. Pun fully intended. And the track itself has a good variety in corners too. I honestly think it's one of the better winter-themed tracks in the franchise, and I always have a good amount of fun whenever I'm playing it. It's not my favorite track or anything, but I think it gets a little more hate than it deserves. Like, it's not the track's fault you suck at the game. I'm kidding. I hate it when people say stuff like that. We're kicking off the top 10 with the very first track in the game, Luigi's Circuit. And I can already hear you think, how is this in the top 10 and Mario Circuit in 15th? Well, Luigi's Circuit has a unique feature that, to my knowledge, has never been adapted in any other Mario Kart course since. Because even though the track layout looks quite boring, the front and back straight are connected to each other, meaning that once the field starts to spread out a little, you'll be facing other drivers head on. This brings such a fun dynamic, because it adds a little bit of that baby park chaos where you can hit someone in first place even if you're in last, but it's not so chaotic to the point that it can get annoying. It's especially fun when someone has a star or a chain chomp, because they can just destroy the oncoming traffic. Then there's also a chain chomp that you can sneak behind to get a double item box, and another alternate route that leads to a double item box too. It's surprisingly strategic despite its simple layout, and even though the visuals aren't that impressive, I love the fact that Luigi's Mansion is sitting in the background. Overall, this is just a fantastic starter course that might actually be my favorite starter course out of all the Mario Kart games. It definitely deserves some credit for that, which is why a spot in the top 10 seems more than deserved to me. Next up is a track all about dinosaurs, and let's be real, dinosaurs are cool as f***. I think Dino Dino Jungle in general is designed really well. It just feels like you're going on an adventure with pterodactyls flying around, a cave filled with geysers, and treacherous bridges that are very easy to fall off of. And of course, we can't forget the giant dinosaur whose feet and head you need to dodge at 2 separate occasions. It's not an easy track to say the least, and you'll definitely have to have mastered the controls once you reach it. Otherwise, this track is great, and I might have rated it higher if it weren't for the fact it doesn't have my favorite dinosaur, the Triceratops. You know what? F*** it. Comment your favorite dinosaur. Now that we're halfway through the list, the tracks really start to get good, and Waluigi Stadium is a course that definitely belongs in the top half. This is one of those courses that has only gotten better with each new iteration it got, but the original track from Double Dash is still a banger of a course. Set in a dirt bike stadium, this track just feels like a spectacle. Jumping through fiery rings, dodging piranha plants, sliding through tricky sets of corners, all while being watched by a giant crowd is an absolute blast. And the illusion that this is actually a dirt bike event gets even more real because you can see yourself on a big screen in the background and because the crowd is cheering every time you take a big jump. And of course, we can't forget that banger soundtrack that adds to a fantastic atmosphere. This is a track that never disappoints, and I always look forward to playing it again when booting up Double Dash. Another one of those tracks I always look forward to is Bowser's Castle. The atmosphere of this one is spot on. Set in a dark forest with thunder in the skies, poison and lava surrounding the castle, and of course that evil Bowser laugh you hear when you fall off of the course. It's a track that feels very dangerous, and that feeling is emphasized by all the hazards that continually stand in your way. Thwomps, lava, fireballs, a fire-breathing Bowser statue, and just the track itself, because there's quite a few sections where the guardrails are completely removed, and it's very easy to drift off of the course if you're not careful. And in typical Bowser Castle fashion, there's a bunch of sharp 90-degree corners. It's everything a Bowser Castle track should be. By the way, am I the only one that thinks the track layout kinda looks like a chilling spaceman? When I'm looking at a cruise ship, my first thought definitely wouldn't be to organize a kart race there, but as it turns out, that's actually a great idea. I love the concept of Daisy Cruiser. Flying across the deck, drifting along the pool, driving through the dining hall with tables moving all over the place. It's just a really inspired concept. Ever since I first played this track, I was intrigued by it, and to this day, I love driving on it every single time. It's creative tracks like this that make Mario Kart in my opinion. I don't really have anything else to say about it, it's just very cool. But what is it with big ships making for good maps? Black Ops 2 hijacked anyone? I got introduced to Mushroom Bridge in Mario Kart DS and I loved it there, but holy crap, the original is better. The track layout at first glance really doesn't look all that interesting, but once you start driving, you'll quickly realize that this track is very hectic. You're driving on a highway where you're constantly surrounded by cars that you can ram into at any moment. There's a big mushroom shortcut that you can take that saves a lot of time, and you can even drive across the arches of the bridge if you're bold enough. I don't even think driving across the arches is faster, but god, it's fun to do it for the love of the game. This is all accompanied by a high-energy soundtrack that just gets your blood pumping as soon as it begins. It's a course that's just the embodiment of excitement, even when its track layout is fairly basic. I loved it on the DS, and I love it more in Double Dash. The only reason this isn't higher on the list is that there is a track that's quite similar to this one, but that just does everything a little bit better in my opinion. Rainbow Road is a track that really needs no introduction. Overall, this track feels like an absolute roller coaster ride. Plummeting down from the start, drifting through sharp corners, spiraling back up with a bunch of boost pads, following a bendy road with no guardrails, getting shot back up through a tube and ending the lap with more boost pads and a final spiral back to the start line. This is what Rainbow Road is all about. It's super fast and by far the most difficult track the game has to offer. If you've not really mastered the controls by the time you reach this track, you are going to feel that. Especially the upward spiral proves very tricky when trying to keep your cart on track, and even though I have quite some experience with the game, I still get caught off guard sometimes, and I must say I kinda enjoy that challenge. I also love that instead of being in space, the track is suspended above Mushroom City, and that soundtrack is just so incredibly lovely. This iteration of Rainbow Road is the first one that really pulled out all the stops, and is a track that definitely deserves to return in a future Mario Kart game. It's awesome. Wario Colosseum was always one of the tracks that I was really intrigued by before I owned Double Dash myself, and to this day, it is still one of my favorites. The course has lots of jumps, drops, pits, cages, spirals, and so much more. If Rainbow Road feels like a roller coaster, this track is a roller coaster. The track design, simply put, makes it feel really dangerous to drive on. There's a bunch of sections where the guardrails are removed, some of the drops in the road are so steep that you have a bunch of airtime, and overall, it just feels like this course would never pass any form of safety inspections, which is fitting considering it's Wario's. Beautiful! Something else that makes this course unique is the fact that it doesn't have the regular 3 laps, but only 2 because of its sheer length. Personally, I wouldn't have minded if it were to have 3 laps, because however long it is, this track never gets boring, and I'm absolutely delighted every time it pops up. I honestly do not get how this has never made its return in a different Mario game yet, because fuck, it's cool. My runner-up is a track that has made its return multiple times, DK Mountain. I remember playing the version of this track in Mario Kart Wii, and back then it was one of my favorite courses in that game. But I've realized that it's even better in Double Dash. DK Mountain is quite literally perfectly tuned to Double Dash's drift controls. Already the track starts with a long corner in which you can chain drifts together. You then get launched to the mountain and the rest of the course is a descent back to the start line. Starting with rocky terrain, but eventually ending up at really sharp corners, and my god are these satisfying to take in this game. The run down the hill is one of, if not the most exciting piece of track in this game, and I just can't get enough of it. But once you've reached the bottom of the mountain, there's still one final obstacle you need to overcome. A very skinny and shaky bridge that blows in the wind. Now this may not look like much, but it is very easy to get bumped off if you are in a lightweight vehicle. And don't forget that items like the Bowser Shell and Mega Banana basically take up the whole bridge. So if somebody in front of you or behind you has one of those, you're screwed. DK Mountain is up there with the very best track in the Mario Kart franchise, but there is one track in this game that I just get a tiny bit more excitement from. What can I say? I'm just a sucker for street tracks. And before you ask, yes, I'm that annoying guy in the friend group that always wants to play Moonview Highway on Wii while everybody else thinks it sucks. Sue me. Mushroom City, in my eyes, is everything a street track should be. You start on the highway, but take an exit into the city, where you can choose which path you want to take. There's 2 junctions where you can either decide to go straight or take a turn. This is already a really fun feature, but you could even be strategic about it. Does the player ahead of you have items and you don't? It might be smart to choose to go a different direction than them. On top of that, your choice also has influence on the traffic you face, because unlike Mushroom Bridge, this course also has oncoming traffic depending on what side you go. So there's also strategy involved in that regard. But if you want to outsmart your opponents, there's even an alleyway shortcut you can take that is pretty difficult to drift through, right? But can save quite some time and give you an extra item box. When you eventually leave the city, there's a few corners that are really satisfying to snake through and lead you back to the highway. And here you are forced to face oncoming traffic or avoid it altogether by using a mushroom shortcut. I just love how hectic this track is, that you can try a different route each lap, that you have oncoming traffic, and that it feels like you're driving through a real city. I think that this is the track that embodies the chaotic, exciting, and just incredibly fun nature of Double Dash, and I'm absolutely baffled this has never made its return in a later Mario Kart game. It's an awesome track, and it definitely deserves top spot. And that marks the end of my ranking of all the courses in Double Dash. Now, your ranking is obviously going to be different from mine, so be sure to let me know yours in the comments. If you enjoyed my ranking, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'm thinking of doing a video like this for the other games in the franchise too, so let me know if that's something you're interested in. And if you just can't wait to see more of my Mario Kart content, then I'd recommend this video in which I play through and review every mainline game in the franchise.